Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I asked her to say good evening, nobody responded.
Good evening!
Well, it's too late now, I don't want to. I was here last time and I left early and I apologize for that, but it was really cold in here. And I didn't want to have to ask Corey to give me a shirt dress. You had to be here for that.
Big spoon. Big
Yeah.
spoon.
No, never that. No. So I'm a kid of the 70s. And so now today I'm an old grumpy man and my neck hurts because I slept wrong, for God's sake. That's what happens when you get to be this age. But I think about where we are now, and I think about what it was like growing up in, the different eras, the 70s then versus the whatever the hell they call these now, and the big differences. Like I remember one of the big things, really and truly, big and small differences, but I remember when I was a kid, when I rode the bus on Sunday, and that's one of the differences. When I was a kid, kids rode the bus by themselves without supervisions or guardians or location trackers or bicycle helmets or elbow pads. We just rode the bus, and then you'd come home and your mother would say, "Where the hell you been all this time?" And I said, "I was at my friend's house." And she said, "Well, close the door, I'm not trying to keep the city." And that was it, instantly over. You moved on. But if you got on a bus on a Sunday, if you gave the bus driver $1.10, you got a super transfer. And CTA would give you transportation all day long, from like 6 in the morning till midnight, all day. It was a fantastic thing. You just ride and ride and ride. And at the end of the day, you still made money because you got off the bus, people were asking you for that transfer. Like, can I buy that from you? Give you 80 cents for it, 90 cents for it, like that. So then somebody would sell it to somebody else. It was just a piece of paper being passed on and reducing in value more and more. It was like the precursors to NFTs. It was like that. Something else that was different was how far your money would go. When I was a kid, when we wanted to go to the candy store, well, I grew up on the south side. We didn't have candy stores. Where I grew up was referred to as a food desert. So what we would do is go to people's houses who were unknown, unlicensed, uncertified, and they just sold candy. We called them the candy lady. And it might have been poison because we didn't know where it came from. They might have been quitting, but we stepped right up and bought candy for them. And candy was a penny a piece. You went there with 25 cents, you got 25 pieces of candy. Penny candy used to actually exist. You could get a variety. You get your Now Laters, your Laffy Taffies, your Blow Pops, your Tootsie Rolls. It was fantastic. And you didn't have to have a requirement. You didn't have to have like a minimum, this thing and sign up at rewards points. You could just, if you had 8 cents, you could get 8 orange slices. You could get pennies. 50 cents, 50 pieces. And if you had $1, well, you might get your ass beat. Because how the hell did you get $1 and I don't have $1? Did you steal this dollar? I don't have $1. How do you have $1? So what I guess I'm saying is, this is the story about my mother. Because my mother was one who ruled the house the way she did. She was a tough person. I'm the youngest of 11 kids. Yeah, it's tough. I'm still wearing hand-me-down. I just got this. She squeezed the boys into one bedroom of our 2-bedroom house. Only door in that house only room in that house had a door was the bathroom. Put the girls in the other room. And she slept downstairs in what would have been the dining room. We never ate there. She would crowd us into the hot kitchen, steam on the windows, us sweating, and she couldn't always feed us right. Sometimes dinner consisted of a 20-pound bag of potatoes that had been French fried and whatever kind of grease was in the can on the stove that day. And sometimes when she had a good week or she had a little bit of money, she could pull some masterpieces out of that oven. And we'd sit around that hot kitchen moaning in pleasure, tears rolling down our cheeks because the food was so good, while she explained to us in detail why it was the worst meal she had ever made. But she slept in the dining room. She slept in the dining room, and because of where she was, her placement, she was between the front door and the back door. And so if you wanted to get out of the house, you had to get by her. And she slept with one eye open. Tom Cruise couldn't get out of my mother's house if she was just like that. She was always telling us that it was hard out there. She said, it's hard out there, and I might be rough on you sometimes, but I have to be to get you ready. And I was like, sometimes you're hard on us? I was like, look, Alcatraz Annie, I'm 9 years old and I know how to wash my clothes by hand and I can bounce a quarter off the bed after I make it. So ease up, I think we're good. She had a real big work ethic every day. No, I'd never failing. It was one time in my life she was a crossing guard. Her post was in Lincoln Park. We lived on 89th Street. Long ride. In the 70s, 3 years in a row, we had these terrible blizzards. One was worse year after year after year. The only thing she did different was, because it had paralyzed public transportation, there were no roads, she just got out of bed earlier. And she walked farther, but she made it to her post on time. One of my older sisters said, why don't you just stay home from work in this kind of snow? And my mother looked at her as if, she'd been hit in the head. She's like, did you fall down and hit your head? I'm still going to work every day because school is still open. And it was like common sense for her. Like, so let me say this real slow for you. You can keep up. If there's work, I'm going to do it. Her work ethic was like one of her staples, was one of the most important things to her. She couldn't understand people who didn't go to work, either out of the house at work or in the house working. So that meant we had to clean all the time. And she would say something like, I want this house clean from top to bottom. Your arms ain't broke, and Hazel ain't coming. And I didn't know who Hazel was or anything. The maid or something like that. And she would say things like that all the time to confuse me, like these names that didn't make sense. She'd say something like, you're laughing. What's so funny, McGee? None of us is named McGee. And I was like, who are you talking about? She said, let me tell you something, Jackson. When I say something, I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. And I was like, who's Jackson? But I will say this. I will say she did mean what she said about saying what she meant. Because to my mother, your promise, your trustworthiness was the most important thing. At the end, your word was the most important thing. She would say with pride, she would brag, and she'd say, you know what, on just my word alone, I can go up and down this block, and I could borrow $1,000. I could borrow $1,000. She called it a grand, and she talked like that all the time, like she was a gangster movie. I need $1,000, see, yeah, you dirty rat. So I was like, and she's talking code all the time. She would say something to me like, not what she meant was, I can warn you and I can warn you, but if you don't heed my warning, you're going to fail and you'll suffer for it. Now that's what she meant when she said, you don't believe fat meat is greasy until you slip on it and break your ass, which is better, I think. And she would talk in that kind of code like all the time. And she would talk in ways that only people who were from Mississippi and the South Side and people who lived in her house could understand. She worked with a man in the city, at City Hall. His name was Lasky. And his wife developed cancer and she died. And the loss was like really traumatic for him, and he suffered a mental breakdown. But my mother saw it as, that gray boy at the gig, his old lady got the big C, put him to sleep, and it flipped him. And everybody's like, what are you saying? I was like, I got this, I can translate for you. I speak Annie, I've got this. This is good. But she was like that all the time. And there's the phones we were talking about. Oh, okay. I forgive you. So, as I think about her, and I think about her often, I think about the things about her that still compel me, the things she said that didn't make sense. Like a couple of times she would threaten me. She'd say something like, if I find out you didn't, or fill in the blank, or if I found out you fill in the blank, I'm gonna kick your ass till my kneecap catch on fire. I didn't know what a kneecap was. I heard cap, and I thought hat, and I thought she meant she'd be whipping me with her hair in flames to intensify the beating, but she meant this. I get that now. And all the time we were together, I would look at her and I think about the things she couldn't do that was so hilarious. And I'm not saying this out of meaning that she was just funny with the stuff she couldn't do. She couldn't sing, she couldn't dance, she couldn't swim, she couldn't ride a bike, she couldn't spit. You heard me, she couldn't spit. But the bad part was we had to hear her every morning when she brushed her teeth, brush, 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 swish, swish, swish. And we'd be like, it's not hard, just eat good. That's it. I'm 9, I got that. But that was the thing that she did and said. And one of the best things about her, one of the best things for me was she couldn't do snakes. She couldn't handle snakes. She was terrified. It was so bad she couldn't look at a snake. If a snake came on TV, we'd be sitting around watching TV. And if a snake came on TV, she'd just go on talking, and she'd close her eyes and continue to have the conversation as if everything was normal. And then somebody would say, okay, well, the snake is gone. You can open your eyes now. And she'd open her eyes, and, we'd keep talking. And I told somebody that one time, and they said, well, what would she have done if you had said, as a prank, as a joke, if you said, there's no snake anymore, open your eyes, and the snake was still there? And I said, I have no idea what she would have done because nobody was ever brave enough to try some crazy shit like that with my mother because Annie Williams didn't play. Although she did play a little bit. She played whist. Has anybody heard that, the card game? Whist? Bid whist, right? Okay. See, I thought she made that up and called it bid whist, but she played bid whist. And I shouldn't say played bid whist because she was out for blood when she was at the card table. She was having the time of her life. She'd be sitting there at the table, a partner sitting across from her, scared to death. Am I almost done? Okay. And in the background was her favorite song, It's All Right, by The Impressions. It's all right, have a good time, it's all right. And she was quite a thing, my mother. She was a ball of fire. She was a white star until she started to fade on us. And it was gradual, and then it was really fast. And her favorite doctor had to tell his favorite patient that she was losing her cognitive abilities. And she started to cry when he told me that. And he had to take away her keys. And she was in the nursing home. I visited her in the nursing home right before my birthday. And I told her, I love you, I'll be back to see you. And she said, okay. And she looked at me, and I tell you, her eyes cleared up. She came back, and she looked at me as if she knew something I didn't know. And that was the last time I got to see that smile from my mother. My time was up, but I'll tell you this. When she passed, and now she's in heaven, I told the minister, when he told me that there'd be no more labor, I said, I hope she can still labor, because maybe she wants to cook for us when we get to heaven. And I hope I'll see her there, so that I can say to her, it's all right, have a good time, because it's all right. Thank you.